go. It's episode 321, November the 1st, 2021, on Canadian Patriot Podcast. This is John McDonald with Music and the Truth Until Dawn. Right now, I've got a few words for some of our brothers and sisters in the occupied zone. The chair is against the wall. John has a long mustache. It's 9 o'clock Canadian, another day closer to victory. And for all of you out there on or behind the line, this is your song.
And we'd love to hear your feedback about the show. Please visit CanadianPatriotPodcast.com/feedback or email us at feedback@CanadianPatriotPodcast. Andrew finally gets the intro right. I mess up my lines. Shoot us an email. Tell us what you think. Tell us who you might want us on as a special guest, because we've got a couple of those that we'll introduce briefly.
We need your help to support the show. Canadian Patriot Podcast. Visit patreon.com/CPP and become a Patreon. You get a better quality version of the show for just $1. Show you're not a communist. Buy a CPP t-shirt for just $24.99 plus shipping and theft. Visit CanadianPatriotPodcast.com and follow the link on the right.
This brings us to my favorite segment. It's called Plausible Deniability. I mean, what are we drinking? We have guests on tonight, so it would be discourteous of me as a host to not start with our guests. Boris from True North Tradecraft and Ace from Delta to Alpha. If you gentlemen are drinking, if you'd like to start with what you're drinking.
Bang energy drink. Purple Skittles.
Solid
Nice.
choice.
Not nearly as exciting.
Pierre, what are you drinking?
I'm drinking 40 Creek and Pepsi tonight.
And Gavin, what are you drinking?
I've got the regular, the Signal Hill and Diet Pepsi. I had a few energy beverages over the weekend, though.
Oh boy.
Keep my caffeine levels up.
That pre-workout you gave me was fire. What's the name and the brand on that?
It is Perfect Sports. A friend of mine, Bruce, owns that one. And then the actual name of that one is Altered State. I'll send you a link on where to get that one. Bruce is good people.
Excellent.
Gavin giving out psychedelics in the middle of the show.
Hey man, you're not my real mom.
You can't prove that. Want to remind everybody about the Patriot Challenge. Do 5 things every day to be a better person. Do your 45 minutes of exercise. Practice a skill for 10 minutes. Read a book for 15 minutes. Drink at least your 2 liters of water and complete a task that will improve your life. Wow. Or improve your life if you're keeping those, I guess. I'm right there with Gavin with not being able to read my lines. If you're not kicked off of socialist media yet, go grab a template, share it with your friends and or enemies.
Yeah. Especially your enemies. Show them how tough you are.
How tough you pretend to be on the internet?
Yeah.
Section 74 challenges are ongoing. Legal battles for firearm stuff costs money. Everybody knows this. Go on GoFundMe. Give them some money. Lawyers are not cheap. And that gets our housekeeping out of the way. And I'm going to turn it over to Gavin and sit here quietly for a moment and drink.
Perfect. Yes. I don't know. Do you guys want to do like a quick intro on who you are? Or you want me to just go right into what happened this weekend?
Why don't you start with your after action report, and then we'll get it rolling.
Great. Yeah. So after a much longer than expected hiatus from doing fun hood rat stuff with my friends, I had the fortunate opportunity to do some over the weekend. I attended the course this weekend with Boris and Ace. That was a mix between some combative stuff and some escape restraint stuff. Or restraint escapes. Yeah, my words are not working properly yet.
Counter custody, that works too.
Yeah, counter custody. Yeah. So like how to get out of things that you don't want to be in and how to avoid getting into them altogether, if possible. So it kind of went back and forth between the two. So it's not like we did one day focused on one thing and switched to the next, which was kind of a nice sort of change of pace going from, some restraint stuff to some combative stuff and back and forth. The restraint escape stuff is stuff that I've done a little bit before. It's always good to practice again, keeping up with the Patriot Challenge. Practice a skill. This is one of those skills that could come in very handy at some point in time for reasons, whatever those reasons might be. And yeah, I learned a lot from redoing that one. So practice is good. And then the combative stuff, I've done some stuff with Ace before on that, and then this was a little bit different. Not a single punch was thrown all weekend. A lot of knees. But no, it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. Learned some new stuff. Like I said, practiced some stuff. Got to see old friends and make some new ones. I mean, that's a very quick take.
Let me back up for
get
those
into your
playing along at
specifics.
home.
Yeah.
Maybe we can talk a little bit about the course. Who are Boris and Ace, and what are their companies, and what was the course called?
So, hi, it's Boris. I run True North Tradecraft. My background is various government service, military, law enforcement, but also going outside of Canada to learn some pretty esoteric skill sets in personal protection, and counter custody, restraint escape is one of them. And I guess the goal of it is to raise someone's personal level of security beyond any kind of baseline to bring them to a whole new level. And now that we're slowly getting out of the COVID fog, we're able to start running training again. So this class that we ran was a mixed skills class between True North Tradecraft and Delta to Alpha Design. And I focused on the counter custody, personal security stuff, while Ace was delivering the combative stuff, and we were kind of tag teaming it that way.
Right.
My name's Ace. I started Delta 2 Alpha a while back. As Boris said, we were teaching mixed skills class. We focused on a lot of both the restraints and the combatives, but also if we're going through and looking at a situation where we're fighting out of custody. So how do we looking at combatives from an option of how is it I avoid getting into custody in the first place? And in this case, we're definitely talking about unlawful custody. If you have
don't fight the police. That's
it more often than not will go very, very bad for you.
Yeah.
So going through looking at how not to find yourself in unlawful custody, and then going through, and it's like when we are there, handling the restraints from both the perspective of how do I defeat them, as well as the combatives was structured in a way that at the end we were looking at how is it that I can actually fight when I have my hands bound. So if my hands are in front of me, how as I use that, how as I can go through and fight with my hands behind me, and start kind of using that same type of movement. The reason that we focused, the reason the combative stuff was taught in the way that it was because this, we all want to believe that we're going to find ourselves, in these situations, cranked on altered state, or a case full of Bang energy drinks, just finished watching, Jack Ryan, Jason Bourne, Jack Reacher, John Wick, some action movie hero that starts with a J, and then this happens. But the reality of it is you're probably going to be tired and hungry, sick, dehydrated. And so when we go through and we look at, in order to get somebody to put force through the kinetic chain through their hands, and they're not throwing muffins, despite what the majority of men would like to believe, that's actually a skill that most of you are bad at. There's some people that just get it naturally, but it's also one of those things that when we're in those compromised states, we're not going to be able to recruit as much motor neurons as we would like. But we can always go through and be able to throw knees quite effectively. And I can take somebody and get them throwing knees very effectively within 5 minutes, versus going through and getting someone to throw a great punch on target powerfully. I mean, to do that well could honestly take an entire day or more itself. So structuring the combatives in that way, and then looking at that whole spectrum from kind of when you initially see contact, what are the cues that could lead up to it, and then how to potentially fight it off so we don't wind up there. If we do wind up there, kind of through that full spectrum. So Boris Stockman, while they're restraining you, here's things you can do to make it so it will be easier for you to escape should you be in the restraints. In which, Gavin, I mean, you can talk to how well some of that stuff works, right? Where instead of it being half an hour of trying to get yourself out of something, it can be a few seconds.
Yeah. So I guess part of the thing is you kind of built up throughout the course from, practicing or learning about how the different restraints work and what their weaknesses and strengths are, and then how to exploit those. And then you actually got to sort of try them under some less stressful conditions, and then building to, the ultimate stressful condition of being, and not even that stressful really in the grand scheme, but for the weekend, bound face down with your hands behind your back and your feet potentially tied in some way, or your hands, your feet, and your fingers if you were being particularly difficult and they wanted to be extra difficult on you.
Shouldn't have
been So fortunately I did not have my fingers bound as well, or thumbs, just my wrists and feet bound, but face down, hands behind my back, and had to get out. And that was sort of the most difficult one for me. And I mean, I learned a lot going through that one, because I mean, like I said, I've done this before. I had what I thought was a good setup, and it wasn't that it was bad, it's just that I needed to make some changes to it, but that's really difficult to do until you've gone through it. So I had a little rope around my waist with a little bee cutter that can be used to cut through some restraints, which, like Ace was saying, is like, there's ways to do it that can be done very quickly. And if you've got that stuff positioned and set up correctly, you can defeat some of these restraints in seconds. The string that I had tied around my waist kept snapping, so it ended up taking me 30 minutes-ish to escape from that one. And I tweaked the nerves in my hands. So today, the backs of my hands are still a little bit numb. My shoulders are very, very sore. I've got some little abrasions on my wrists. I got some band-aids from the girlfriend because they were just rubbing on everything and it was driving me crazy. So I got the sweet Hello Kitty band-aid.
Hello Kitty? Nice.
Yeah. I won't dish out anything I can't take myself. So if you've been to a class and hurt yourself, I've given you a Hello Kitty band-aid. I will gladly wear them myself. Not that they're that bad, but they just happen to be in that spot that just keeps on rubbing everything. So, yeah, I mean, it was a lot of stressful stuff, but like really not that stressful. It's all stress management, right? So if you can calm down and center yourself and breathe, and then allow that blood to go back into your brain and start working the problem and applying the fundamentals that they taught you to the situation you're in, and sort of thinking about what's around you in the environment and how to utilize that, you will be successful. And everybody in the class was. Everyone was, sort of bound up slightly different, although very similar, but you sort of use different ways of solving the problem.
So yeah, I mean, when Boris and I were laying out this weekend, there was a lot of effort that was put into making sure that it was a environment in which was set up for the purposes of people learning and people being challenged, people being broken down but not broken, with the end goal of everyone is to be successful. And it is our job to challenge you and make you, but still make sure that you're successful. So everyone was given the tools to go through and solve these problems, because when you're going through and you're bound, it's just problem solving, right? It's a combination of yoga. It's a combination of figuring out what the puzzle is. So how do I overcome these limits of flexibility? How is it I go through and I get this in get this in position. Is this the right way to do this? Am I willing to kind of endure a little bit of pain to go through and kind of get this position, and so on and so forth? But everyone was challenged in ways that 100% were going to be difficult, but we knew that they could get through. And a big part of that is when you're like, I mean, we've all been there if we've done any of this type of training or whichever, where you're face down, you're bound up, and you're just like, what's the plan? And when a lot of people have these fantasies about how this is going to go, whatever that situation is. And exercises like the final one on the weekend, a big part of that is about managing your self-talk, managing that internal dialogue. Because when the first thing that you do fails and you try to do something else and that fails, right? Most people can't really deal with that second failure, right? And it's just like, and that's when it starts talking. I'm useless. I'm a fucking piece of shit. I didn't do this properly. Why can't it, right? And it starts turning this downward spiral. And a huge amount of that exercise is about you just controlling the conversation that you're having with yourself about yourself between your ears.
Yeah, no, I can definitely say that's a huge part of it, because I mean, yeah, my setup failed several times, and then you're trying to adapt it, but the problem is that you're not, resetting, undoing your restraints, resetting, and then going back into it. You have to do that all while you're still in the situation that you're in. So you're already tired, you're already sore, those negative mental feelings are starting to creep in, and then it's like, yeah, fuck, that thing broke for the third time. Okay, take a minute, breathe, try to find a comfortable position to rest while I focus and go at it again. I mean, there was I don't want to call anyone out, but there was a couple of people that did sort of break down and have some, emotional sort of moments towards the end of it. But, massive kudos to those people, because they worked through it, and, despite having hated it, they saw the benefit at the end, and, overcame and pushed through that and were successful, which is huge.
Yeah, and I think ultimately, it's not really the fact that they had, an emotional episode that happens.
Yeah.
They didn't lose focus and they didn't quit. And, yeah, they were emotional about it, but they were still successful. And that's, that focus, that drive is what we were really, trying to support and trying to establish in them.
Absolutely. And if anything, they maybe learned more from the class than some of the other people, because they've now shown that they can have that type of a thing and still push through it and be successful in the things that they try.
Yeah, it was good to see that. And, they felt it was very rewarding as well in the kind of debrief at the end. So yeah, good point. And it was good to see them crush those goals.
Yeah.
And then of course, my legs are still really sore.
Yeah.
Hits to the legs. Yeah, kind of made my way through. Ace is showing all his stuff, and I'm partnering up with the odd numbered people and blast Boris's legs, and Boris can't walk properly today. So yeah.
Yeah, there are a surprising amount of nerves in the side of your leg that don't take too kindly to even slight amounts of pressure.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm feeling it.
Well, I've already got a YouTube question from Chris. Chris is somebody that we shoot with quite a bit in person, actually, and is a regular commenter, shit talker, if you will. If a regular person off the internet wants to take one of these classes, do they have to learn Gavin's safe word or anything like that? Or how would someone sign up for this if you guys were going to run one of these again in the future, which I hope you'll do more of since the corona is ending?
So yes, we're definitely looking to run more. Obviously, this was our first kind of opportunity out of the gate of the lockdowns. So we're projecting forward into the future, and we'll start putting stuff out on social media as to when dates and locations start popping up. So you can follow along True North Tradecraft and Delta to Alpha Design for updates for that. We do have a couple of loose ideas in mind, but when we're more solid on that, locations and dates, they'll be going out on those social media platforms.
I'll
We expect our next stuff to be dropping and start happening around April of next year. And we're looking to hit the ground running. This was fairly successful. But yeah, best way to make sure you're staying on top of it is follow us on Instagram. That's where both of us are the most active. So that's True North Tradecraft and at Delta 2 Alpha Design.
I'll try to add, once I see that they've got some classes coming up, the sign up links to our Discord, so that anyone that's listening that's not on social media, because some of you guys live in a cave.
A cave with internet access, just like Bin Laden.
Yeah, I'll add
maybe
those
I took
there.
that more personally than I should have, but
I'll add it there so you guys can sign up, and I recommend this to anyone really. It's a lot of fun to just challenge yourself and learn something new to begin with. So.
Sorry, and sort of in that same vein, when you guys are running classes, is this predominantly in the Greater Toronto area, or do you travel, or do you have a rotating schedule, or how does that
well, if someone wants to host us, we'll 100% go where they want us to go. The Ace and Boris show is a traveling circus.
Perfect.
And if you want to host us, contact Boris, contact myself, and we can go through and start making that happen. Right now, this was kind of our first big test, trying to build the Toronto scene, and then I'm positioned out west, so we're hoping to start building some stuff in the like hosting some events in the Edmonton area, so that way some of the people that are not looking to fly to Toronto can hit something a little more close. Canada's geographically quite wide.
The arrogant worms did have something to say about that.
Yes. Canada is definitely like 3 C's thick.
Really big.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good stuff. So we've got Western stuff, we've got Toronto stuff. That'll be happy for Chris, because Chris is local to Southern Ontario, so Toronto's not too far out of his way.
Yeah. The only downside is you have to go into Toronto, but
yeah.
It's worth it. It's definitely worth it.
I mean, if you like getting tied up on the weekend, I guess.
Yeah, getting tied up on the weekend, Toronto is a good place to go for that.
We're looking at setting something up with and doing some stuff with Simon at S&J Hardware. So if you're closer to that area, call Simon up, harass him, and tell him that you want the Ace and Boris show, and that'll make it happen, and it will encourage him. Go on his Canadian Gun Nuts forum and tell him that you want Ace and Boris on any social media platform where you have your local gun store. Go and tell them that you want the Ace and Boris show, and we'll make it happen.
Right on. Can I ask you guys some more history questions?
Much
about this
like
particular... Sorry, what's that, Gavin?
No, I was just saying, much like we have guns will travel. There have lockpicks and zip ties and assorted paraphernalia, and will travel.
Have stuff and travel.
Yeah,
stuff.
Yeah.
Coming to a Home Depot near you.
Aisle 4 is my favorite. Ropes and chains.
Yeah.
Gavin totally derailed my train of thought, then I got excited about aisle 4.
It happens.
Oh, I was going to ask, getting out of the course and more into your businesses, into True North Tradecraft and Delta 2 Alpha Designs. Most people don't wake up one morning and go, I'm going to teach people how to kick guys in the groin and get out of handcuffs.
Well,
most people.
Groin doesn't actually work that well. It never works as well as you wanted it to. If you were playing T-ball when you were a kid and you took one off a stone and it skipped up and hit you right in the mommy daddy button, you'll keel over because you're not adrenalized. I said, but I mean, if you're hopped up on a little bit of yayo and whiskey or are adrenalized, you might be just offended. It'll give you a half second to a second and a half. So it doesn't work as well as you want it to. And as a guy that's blasted a few people in the pills, expecting said result, it just didn't deliver.
That's
But
disappointing to learn.
strong knees to the front half of the leg and the seams of the pants works real well. Gavin, would you agree?
Yeah, I wasn't quite as much of the punching bag as Boris was, but I can certainly attest to having taken a few knees to the side of the leg, even versus the back of the leg. And yeah, when you get that nerve that runs down that leg, yeah, it is not pleasant, even with just a little tap. Like you will move that leg, and if you hit it hard, you are going to feel that, and it'll, yeah, not be good. And if you've read like Rory Miller's book on violence, about how, you know, little the leg can bend in certain directions, especially sideways, those knees to the leg can be very, very debilitating.
Hence why I'm feeling the way I am today.
I'm sure being tall kind of makes that even worse, right? Because it's
there's more places for people to hit me.
Yeah.
And as far as like, I guess the reasons for me looking at counter custody, restraint escape stuff, it was just one of those things that, like, whatever, 13, 14 years ago, when I came across it, was the missing piece of kind of the self-defense puzzle, so to speak. It's like, what happens when, you know, your punches and kicks or running away doesn't work, and someone's actually like put you in those things, how are you getting out of them, right? And I was introduced to that originally through Kevin Reeve of On Point Tactical, and it was just really eye-opening way back when. And then kind of the rest is history. I started seeking out people to teach me, not in Canada, because as far as I know, I'm the only person in Canada who's teaching it. Yeah, it's just many years of practice of it, and kind of moving in those circles and developing those skills, and then starting to teach it up here, because I think it is an important part of one's personal security kind of toolbox.
Is that where you'd focus heavily then, Boris? Is you're more in the personal security realm?
Yeah, personal security and preparedness as well. So the kind of, you know, separate streams, and then physical security as well. So we've put on covert entry concepts classes with some of our partners, and like teaching physical security analysis, lock picking, lock bypassing, that sort of stuff. It's been pretty great, but ultimately the border lockdowns and stuff like that have made it difficult to get people back and forth, and even to acquire some gear. It's made it difficult. So as we're moving forward, hopefully that'll be able to be an option again, and start delivering a wider breadth of classes.
No, that's
great. Having done the covert entry one, well, several years ago now, that's also a good one to take too. I mean, and I think it all kind of overlaps with the things that you guys do and the things that we guys do. And yeah, more knowledge is better.
Absolutely. And it's better to have it like before you need it, you know?
Yes.
Yeah.
Is there anything in your background that got you particularly into that, or it was just like, I'm going to take a course because it's interesting and it clicks that this is a thing that's missing and I can fill a niche in the market? Or is there more to the Boris story than that?
No, it's more like something I was just interested in that filled the cracks, or the gaps of knowledge and skills on the professional side, and then but quasi hobby, and then it grew from there after, you know, more than a decade. And then I just was like, hey, you know, people want to know about this. People keep asking me, how do I know about it? And some really great friends just kind of pushed me in the direction of being like, well, do something about it, because you're the only Canadian doing this. And it grew from there, and started putting on some classes here and there, and people were excited, and here we are.
That's fair. And what about Ace? How did you get involved in I guess, is combatives the right word for your specialty?
So the stuff that I teach, we refer to as Modus CQC. Modus was a gym that I was running at the time. And we had a program that we initially were just running for guys that were actually using it. So if you were a bouncer, you were a rent-a-cop, you were jail guard, you were kind of going overseas. And it was just what we called it because I wasn't going to name it after myself. So CQC, for anyone that doesn't know, is close quarter combatives. And the way it is that I approach combatives is quite a bit different than what you'll see other people doing. As an example, I have a very, very strong emphasis on footwork. And I'm not just sending in successive rights, which is what a lot of times what you see. So it's got a very, very different flavor, a very, very different look. And so like we just call it combatives because it's simple, and it's a Western term, and we're in the West. But I don't know if that answers the question.
No, I think that's fair. You had a gym, you started teaching us, and it's evolved from there. And I assume, much like Boris, this is not exactly been a straight or easy path. It's not something you woke up yesterday where it's like, I'm going to teach bouncers how to throw people around.
No, I did martial arts my entire life. I grew up in a place that was 35, 40,000 people where the drink, fuck, fight, and play cards. First fight was when I was in second day of kindergarten. That doesn't include the ones that I had with my brother. And just kind of my experience of growing up was there's a whole bunch of things that just happen all the time that I wouldn't even consider a fight. They were just physical altercations. This was very much a boys will be boys type of attitude. And then when I left, I went up I left and I went somewhere else. Apparently that wasn't how everyone grew up. But when I started doing the first martial art that I belted in was Bujinkan Ninjutsu, where I learned a lot about fighting without learning how to fight. And it was a very academic understanding, but everything that I've seen, traditional or modern, is all kind of through that lens of what I grew up around. And then it just kind of evolved from there. When I wound up finding myself in situations where I had to go through and make stuff work, and martial arts, as it's taught traditionally, is often from a self-defense perspective. So you're standing there and then they do this and you are doing such, right? You're always defending yourself, and that's how a lot of these things are happening, and you're reactive. And I didn't know what was actually required for me to take the fight to them when it was required, or it just the answers weren't clear. So kind of we needed to start looking for something else.
Get more into that, say, offensive capability.
Stuff that worked both ways.
Right.
So I had a whole bunch of guys that were using it. And I mean, I had to teach guys that were going in to use it. And I already knew how to make my stuff work because I grew up having to make it work, and because I already had working knowledge of what a Donnybrook is and how it goes down. I could find these things when it came up. But I now had to figure out how to teach that to someone else. So there became a requirement to systematize it. The guys, and we referred to it at the time as just the operators class. It was the guys that were operating operationally, or whatever you'd like to call that, right? Like they were guys that were on a weekly basis likely to have to get into a physical altercation. That was kind of what the metric was, right? You'd either been training with me for a while, or the probability of you getting in an altercation once a week was at least 50%. And so these guys all wanted this to work. So you had rough and tumble guys. This is before like red man suits and high gear and all that was really well available. And so it was a mixture of like motocross gear and cross gloves and motorcycle helmets. And we actually went through and built, we called it the Fear Factory. It was about 1 meter wide and about 10 feet long. It was a padded cell. And how is it we could make that stuff work? So then we could look at things like using the environment, which is some of the stuff that Gavin saw this weekend, and how that changes it. And looking at looking at it not in terms of it being a duel, the way that a boxing match or kickboxing match is, where we're kind of even Steven and there's this kind of tit for tat, but looking more at dealing with violence is typically one person is doing it and the other's having it done to them. The way that Tim Larkin describes it's probably the most accurate. And I disagree with Tim on a few things, but the way that he describes that is quite, it's very simple, and it's a bit of a paradigm shift. And so the question becomes, how do I go through and look at it that way? And then how do I go through and take and change the table? So it's not just, so if someone's doing something to me, how do I change it so I'm the one doing something to them? And going through and looking at, the stuff that we teach versus like boxing or kickboxing or sport fighting, they can look very similar, but are all while being very, very different. And it's the case, it's the case, it's the cadence, it's the pace, it's the asymmetrical nature of it, it's what the objective is, and just we had to tailor it because there was nothing really out there like it.
Nice. So one of the main reasons that like I started kind of getting into this, aside from being a total weirdo, is like for work and for fun, I like to travel, and sometimes that ends up putting me into weird places all over the world that are, maybe not the nicest of places. So if you guys had like one piece of advice for people that travel abroad, in and around non-permissive environments and things like that, what would it be?
So, so Boris here, basically my key point would be do your research before you go. Have an idea of what's going on in the location you're going to, what the threats are, what the criminality is, what your resources are, as well as the lay of the land. Understand where you're staying, where you're going, how you're getting there, the challenges associated with it. Because once you know about the location you're going to, you may have resources available to you. But if you don't know where you're going, where your hotel is in relation to the conference center you're going to and all that stuff, you're at the mercy of anyone that wants to take advantage of you because you don't have a clue where you're going or how you're getting there. So, and if something goes wrong, where's your embassy, where's a hospital, that sort of thing. Where's the border from there, the airport, things like that. So having an idea, doing your research, knowing who's a good guy and a bad guy in that area is going to give you an edge when you're in there.
So do your Met TCs.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like it.
So something that's like a kind of a universal, I guess there's a few little tips. Bad things happen when the sun's not out, right? When the sun's down, that's when bad things happen. So a huge majority of your problems and the likelihood of you interfacing with criminality, if you are inside after dark, that will be avoided. Further to that, do not flirt with or try to pick up local women. And the reason for that is you don't know whose daughter that is, whose mistress that is, whose wife that is. And you can wind up at some places where life is real cheap. So stay away from the local women. Don't try to buy drugs, and don't be out after dark. And if you follow those things, you may not know the language, right? You may be a giant tourist and standout, but if you follow those things, the likelihood of you winding up in a really, really bad situation is very, very low.
Sounds like all the things that I've done the opposite of to have a good time in foreign places, but okay.
Yeah.
It's definitely a risk versus reward. It's a balancing act, right?
Yeah.
But if you follow those things, so as soon as the sun goes down, that's when your risk profile goes up. If you have to go through a place like Reynosa, kind of from Brownsville, McAllen on the way to Monterey, and you have to cross through Reynosa. So in Reynosa, you are likely to see things on the side of the road like gunfights, right? And that just happens in the middle of the day. And there's a huge criminality presence because all we're controlling that border region, right? Because that's the way that drugs go back and forth. So the easiest way to not catch a stray round there, and I mean, like, you might be more likely to catch a round there than you would in Fallujah, right? So the easiest way to avoid that is if you need to go through that region, you need to be on the first bus going through there, because the majority of the people that are involved in criminality tend to be people that abuse substances, right? They like to party, whether they're doing coke or they're drinking or whatever. If you're going through there at 7 a.m, guess what? Those guys are in bed, right?
Gotta
They're
beat the party
haven't
animals.
had coffee yet. They're not getting up till like 11, 10 maybe, right? So if you're through there while they're in bed, your chances are better. Your probabilities are better. If you go out and you're chasing around hookers and trying to buy coke in a place where you don't speak the language, I mean, you just might wake up with a kidney.
Okay, you convinced me. That sounds like less of a good time. I've got a double header for you, in the same sort of vein. Maybe less about hookers and kidneys, but in the same sort of vein. Your favorite courses that you've taken, and your favorite subject to teach. Because I looking through your websites, you guys both have quite the collection of skills that you are willing to give away. Because as Pierre likes to tell us, $20 is $20.
My favorite thing to teach, that's tough. There's lots of things I like to teach. Are we talking about people? Or are we talking about teaching animals?
But let's go with the people, the two-legged variety of animals.
Okay.
Your favorite course content.
The most
to go
dangerous
through.
kind of animal, people.
Okay. Be really hard to pin that down. I would say that recently, actually, you know what? I got a chance to train with Paul Castle, the guy that developed center axis relock. I got a chance to train with him a couple times, and Paul is he's dead now, but he came in and really challenged the norm of what people thought was how you would use a gun, how you'd hold a gun. And when it came to how he used a pistol, he said, well, it's fundamentalist marksmanship. I need to get this round on target as fast as possible. I need to be accurate. I need to control recoil. And so he just came in and did things different. And so going through and seeing how he would do that and not being afraid to be different, you saw different ways that recoil is managed, things like that. And Paul to say he was good with a gun would be an understatement. But he could teach you to be good with one. And you go through and you look at shooting I haven't done it in a while, just because the ammo has been at a bit of a premium. So I tried to avoid wasting it.
Mm-hmm.
But at 3 meters, at 2 meters, putting 4 to 5 rounds a second with a 40 cal on target, like on a 2-inch by 2-inch square, and having some of the rounds going through the same hole. Now, why am I doing that? Right, hard to say, right? We could talk about as far as like a combative shooting type of thing, that those things are happening that fast, and this many, right? 6 rounds, 6 feet, 6 seconds or less, right? Cool. But it was that he wasn't afraid to be different, and he approached problems differently. So that was really neat. But as good as Paul was with a gun, what made him truly unique was his ability to get inside your head. Because who gives a shit? You're standing at 3 meters, 2 meters from a target, and you're working that close range. I mean, surely everyone's gonna be on target, right? Like, you're not going to miss a shot there, right?
I don't know. We've taught a couple of 3 handgun courses, and you'd be surprised.
So I saw Paul be able to get inside guys' heads and fuck them up so bad. And I'm talking like Rangers, like legit SOCOM guys that were students of the game, and have them missing shots at 2 meters with a handgun. Because the thing that he was really good at was getting inside someone's head. And to see how it was that he could do that as a silver-tongued devil and go, like, what he did with a gun was fascinating. What he did with how he was able to work people, how he was able to work a room. It's like something you've never seen. He was dangerous, but not for the reason that you think he was. And so I would say, as far as like the thing that shifted my paradigms about what was possible and what psychological stress was, because a lot of people just think, oh, I need to go through and sleep deprive you, or I need to go through and I need to pepper spray you, or I'm going to make you do, right, Gavin, you're going to do 100 burpees and I'm going to get you to do this.
Gavin's not going to do 100 burpees. I've met Gavin.
I'm not going to do 100 burpees.
I don't think anyone is.
Of course,
Like
we
that, yeah.
might do 100 burpees, right? Right. So we go through and we look at that, but okay, well, we're always looking at how to create this physiological stress. This guy could go through and get you fucked up so bad just with words. And then it would be your own self-talk that was doing the work, and you were missing targets at 2 meters with a handgun. Right? And it was
I need to take a talking lesson from that guy, because that could be good for helping me win some matches if I can just shit talk everyone in the
hey, anything that works. So
yeah.
I would say that was the most eye-opening person that I ever trained with. It was the one that shifted my paradigms the most. And I don't even teach shooting now. Of course.
So I guess it's kind of an easy one for me. It's when I first started with covert entry stuff with Rob from the core group, Covert Instruments. Just the first time I went through that class, really eye-opening, really kind of opened the world of physical security to me and gave me a radically different perspective on things. And having done it several times now and gone down for various iterations of associated types of courses and whatever, it just blew my mind at the time, many years ago. And that hands down, that was like the most impactful course I'd ever taken. And that's part of the reason why I teach it now, is because I'm trying to have the same kind of impact on somebody else. Like if I can really open someone's mind like that, that would be fantastic, because it's done so much for me personally and professionally, that it just kind of it's by far the most impactful, my favorite thing that I've taken. I've taken all kinds of other stuff which are fantastic, but if I had to put one down, it's that.
I mean, having taken stuff, with Rob as well, like when I first met you, is you brought Rob up to do the covert entry class, and then I've gone down to visit him in the US. Rob is definitely a very charismatic and really good, knowledgeable instructor, right? He's got the knowledge base and he's got the teaching part of it as well, which, I mean, some people just don't have.
Yeah, just all around awesome. So
yeah. And I mean, and that's the one thing I really like about learning stuff from you guys, is it's not just the knowledge base, because I've gone and taken classes with guys that have the knowledge base, but are just shit teachers. Like
I try and put myself like on the flip side of, if I was taking the class, how would I be able to, or how would I want the instructor to instruct me?
Yeah.
And I could just go there. I could demo something or talk how awesome I am, but really that doesn't help the people. No one cares.
Yeah.
That's not why I'm there. I'm there to make you awesome, or as awesome that you can be. And I try and take the perspective of, I'm going to teach you as much as I can to build your skills and your confidence to use those skills. So when you walk out the door, you actually feel like, you're able to do something and it was worth your time and your money. And that maybe, just maybe, it'll save your ass in some way.
Nice. So short of training with good instructors, because some people just don't have that opportunity, and they don't live near anyone, or sometimes as you and I have learned, traveling into the US could be quite costly and there's nobody around. What other resources, books, et cetera, would you guys recommend for maybe people to get started in and then increase their knowledge base in that way, or maybe sort of build up from that, and read a book or listen to a podcast, or whatever it is, learn something and then keep going? Where should people get started to get some information?
Well, if they're looking for kind of personal physical security, disaster preparedness, I'd say start with truenorthtradecraft.ca. We do have a book out on disaster preparedness, taking a principles-based approach to preparedness, and it's scalable to whatever your situation is. So if you live in a condo, you can still make the principles work for you. And if you live on a big farm, it'll work the same. It's just, you work through the process. So that's available on our site or on Amazon. Also, just take a course. A lot of the stuff we teach is kinetic, and it's best learned and best absorbed by actually going through it. I could, like Gavin, I could talk to you all day about what it's like to get out of a pair of handcuffs, but
you'll never know until you do it.
Yeah, actually doing it is a completely different situation. The feel of it is a certain way.
Yeah.
Picking a lock, there's a feel to it. So again, you can learn it out of a book. It's kind of get the theory part of it, but actually doing it can't be beat. And then at least you have something solid, some kind of solid skill set as you walk out. So you can get some products from us. You can practice at home safely. Don't tie yourself
with a partner.
With a partner that can cut you out or stuff like that. That's why we recommend taking a course on it, because at least when you come to us, you're in a very controlled environment with competent, safety-minded instructors, more than one. And we always have the means to get you out safely and reduce any kind of issues that you may have. So keep an eye on our course offerings as they come out. Pick up one of our books and keep with us. And as far as the other side of it, Ace.
There's no book that I can give you that's going to teach you how to fight. It's and anyone that tells you otherwise is just, they're just pulling your chain. If somebody wanted to learn how to throw hands and be fairly effective, getting a double-ended bag, and we have a program called Drago V1. We'll give you the basics of that, but whatever's local, right? Like judo clubs are typically at the YMCA, and you can go and train with one for like $60 a month. That will teach you something. It's typically much cheaper than you doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So if you're on a budget, great. And if you're on a budget, you could probably volunteer with the YMCA and get the classes paid for that way. Wrestling. If you're out in the middle of nowhere, but there's a wrestling club at the high school and you can kind of go and coach and just kind of be a body on the mat, that's a good way to go. Good enough is the enemy of the best, right? So any you want to be doing the best training you have access to, and wrestling is a good base, boxing is a good base, judo is a good base. Whatever it is that you have access to, start doing that. And then as other opportunities come up, you will be better equipped. But the more you do something that is similar, right? Like if I've gone through and been, shooting a rifle, and I know how that rifle is handled, I'll probably be able to figure out how to handle and aim and point a shotgun pretty quick, right? Because I'm used to that. So I want to go through, and the skill that I want to learn, I want to be practicing or finding a place near me that I can train with consistently. And that's the most important thing, is what club is near me that I can train with consistently. But there's no book that you're going to read that's going to make you be able to fight. And that's just the real truth of it.
No, it's all good. And having read, going back to Boris's book on preparedness, it's a nice short one. So it's easy to read. It won't take you too long, but it really does cover the basics to get you started on just being better prepared for all kinds of stuff, right? Like, and I think that's the biggest problem these days is that people just don't realize how tied we are to the ease of access to literally everything.
Everything. Yeah.
Yeah, I
That's,
mean,
that's why I took the tack that I did with it. There's a lot of information out there that's very prescriptive, and it's like you must do this, or you must buy this kind of generator, or you must buy this kind of knife.
yeah,
Look,
no,
that's all crap because not everybody's in the same boat or has the same requirements or the same resources. But when the power goes out and it starts
yeah,
to get cold in the middle of the winter, that you all have the same needs. So, if you've done like wilderness survival and stuff like that, there's like the basics of actually making it through, fire, shelter, water, all that sort of stuff. At the end of the day, you need to replace those basics. So that's why I go from a principles based approach to be able to scale it, because it doesn't matter if, I don't want to tell someone they have to do it exactly this way because it may not work for everybody, but the principle is always adaptable. The principle is always scalable. And regardless if you buy your stuff from a Gucci, dealer or a dollar store, if it fills that need and fills that budget or that capability, and it checks off that little box for that principle, then you've achieved your goal. Versus, oh, I can't be prepared because I can't buy this $7,000 generator or something, right? So, or I live in a condo, so how am I supposed to collect water and all this sort of thing, So I take that principles-based approach, give a lot of different ways to achieve the same objective for different circumstances or scenarios. And I think that's why people have responded very positively to it.
well, and I think it's one of the biggest things that I like about the way that you guys teach is it's not so much about this is the way, it's understanding, the principle, the fundamentals, the how does this work? And then once you know how it works, you can apply it, and sometimes apply it in different sort of unorthodox ways, but because you understand the principles, you can do that sort of fairly easily with a little bit of sort of free thinking. And that's the way that you guys teach, and that's the way that the book's done. And I mean, I think that's the way that Andrew and I try to teach as well, in that, like, if you understand the fundamentals of something, you have a much better ability to do the thing because you can apply them in ways that are a little bit unorthodox.
I would agree. So for me, I think very often, like I've been to plenty of seminars and courses where you're going through and you're being presented this information, and it isn't necessarily given with the proper context. So the thing that I always like to try to consider is what's important now, right? So what's the objective from this position? So not dying in a survival situation, the goal is to not get wet and not get cold. If you can not get wet and not get cold, your ability to survive, just by not getting cold, you can survive for 3 days. And that's without you even getting water, right? So if you go through and you look at whatever that situation is, whether it's a position on the ground in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, or somebody's grabbed a hold of you and their hands cocked back, what's the goal for the person that needs to defend themselves, finger quotes, right? What's the goal of that situation? What's the objective? What's important now? And I think that's the real thing that's missing in a lot of training paradigms. And so when you go through and you look at, like, for example, your in restraints, right? Well, if your hands are behind your back and your feet are tied, and you can slip your cuffs or slip your restraints in front of you, probably the first thing you want to do is slip your restraints in front of you, because your life is now infinitely easier, right? So great, right? So it's going through and determining what is it you need to do to line them up so you can knock them down. And if we're never told what that is and where that kind of triage happens, whether it's, surviving in the wilderness or going through and preparing for some type of, blackout because it's an ice storm in Canada, which is, for you guys out here, is a pretty high probability. Or you're in a dark alley and someone grabs a hold of you. You're in a bar and someone goes to clean a clock. But we don't know what the objective is. We don't know how to triage that. We don't know what it is we can move towards. So the context that's provided is key.
I'm glad you bring up objectives. I have a sort of a final question to round the interview portion of the program out. Imagine, if you can, your 18-year-old self, and you have the opportunity to give yourself a piece of advice. Knowing everything that you know now, if you can distill down the years of training and practice and courses and everything into a single thing that you could have told yourself when you finished high school to make your life that much better, what would that piece of information be?
I'd probably tell myself to learn as much as I can, keep learning. And even though I'm a lifelong learner and I do follow that philosophy, I a lot of times think I missed out on a lot of opportunities that could have enhanced my knowledge or skills or what have you. So I'd say just learn everything you can, like everything. Take an interest in nonstop learning. Doesn't matter what the topic is, because some of the esoteric stuff that I do know has come up in the most random places to either help myself or somebody else, and or even benefit me in some way. So just learn as much as you can about as much as you can.
Like letting the RCMP into their trailer because they lost the keys, or was it a different agency?
It was a different agency, but yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. It was a different agency. They locked the keys in their trailer and came to me to ask me to pick the lock and open it for them, which I successfully did, to which they're eternally grateful. So yeah.
So I guess I would tell my younger self, you don't know anything. You don't know what you don't know. It takes a certain amount of knowledge on a topic for you to know that you know nothing, and try to learn everything. And shut up and train.
I think that both of that is very solid advice.
Like when you're 18 years old, you think you know everything. And when you get to be 46 years old, you realize you still don't know anything, right? And it's just, as the further on we go, the more we learn, the more we realize, I know sweet fuck all. And there's no way for you to know if you know something.
Yeah, you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah, it's
a stupid cliche, but it's true.
So that would be the advice that I would give to myself.
Solid advice all around. Is there anything else that you guys wanted to touch on that we neglected to cover?
I've just got a quick question. I don't live in the butthole of Canada, Toronto area.
The butthole is Hamilton, if you want to be particular.
I thought it was
okay, fine.
There's a few buttholes.
But what would be the ideal group size for you guys to travel? Right, if I can find, let's say I live close to Ottawa area. I know it's not a far travel to go to Toronto, but if I can avoid Toronto, I'm going to avoid Toronto. So what would be the ideal group size for you guys to put on a good course that be hopefully spread the cost?
Pierre's asking if you'll put him in handcuffs is what this is coming down to.
My safe word is pineapple juice.
The short answer is yes, we will put you in handcuffs, Pierre, if you ask us nicely. So for us to take the show on the road, we like to get a minimum of 12, and we can if the venue with enough notice and knowing that the venue is there, right? Like if you're providing the venue, you can go as high as 30 because there's two of us. but
Okay.
minimum 12, no more than 30. And if it's going to be 30, we just need to have enough notice so we make sure we have enough kit.
Yeah, that was going to be the next one. Like what's your ballpark for like, minimum, maximum for 12 to 30? Sounds good. Apparently, I need to make a lot more friends.
Pardon me?
Apparently, I need to make more friends. I don't know 12 people.
But don't worry, they take the show on the road already. They were just in your area, so next time they're there, I'll let you know.
Yeah.
And then you don't have to make new friends. You can just show up and get handcuffed.
Well, and there's also a thing where if Pierre, you want to host and stuff like that, we'll go through and also cross promote it. So you may wind up with some local people showing up, right? Yeah. It's like, hey, this is what it is. You get it set up. We get to show up and be awesome and do our thing. But yeah, like we're gonna go through and try to promote it so it's worth it for you.
And I mean, sometimes just showing up to the class, like I've done a lot of going and learning solo, because I mean, how many people are into taking weird classes like this? Not that many, unfortunately. If there were, we'd all be a lot richer. We're not.
Yeah.
But there was 8, 9 people on the course this weekend.
Yeah,
something like that.
We had some people that had to wind up canceling last minute. So I mean, initial projections were about 12.
Yeah, so there was 8, 9 people. I showed up and there's another dude wearing the exact same T-shirt as me,
which was really funny. Yeah.
So I mean, you go and meet people at these courses, and just because the sort of the obscurity of the material almost guarantees that you're going to get along with everybody on the course. So
yeah,
that's the nice thing. Like you've kind of filtered out the people that you don't like already just by the nature of the material.
Yeah. Exactly. Well, good to know.
And just patches.
Yes.
We bring patches, Pierre.
Yeah, you can start off your collection. This is only a small portion of mine. There's a giant wall over here with even more. But these are the ones that are important to me. And if you notice right there are the ones that I achieved this weekend.
Yeah, no, that's definitely good. Definitely something I want to look into. So
yeah,
maybe not next week, but I'm sure I'll look. I'll keep that in mind for sure. Thank you very much.
We'll probably host them at some point, and you're welcome to crash in the guest room, Pierre.
Sounds good, man.
You guys can take turns braiding each other's beards.
We'll never
Ace
get
did
around
braid
to
mine at one point this weekend, and it was magic.
Allegedly.
I've had my wife and daughter make cornrows and braid everything, and it's fun.
Things you do for the women folk. Yeah.
Yes.
Chris does bring up a point. Events section on Discord. Yes, if there are things if there are events, we should put them on Discord. It helps our listeners find them, which is a good point. We do have a Discord.
Yes.
You want to come and talk smack there? You can find a bunch of people on the podcast on Discord if you're into that sort of thing. We also have book club coming up. November's book is a handbook for right-wing youth, if I ever finish it, because I'm still on the first essay and it is not going well. But we have decided on the December book, trying to get everybody ahead. Small Unit Leader's Guide to Counterinsurgency, the official United States Marine Corps manual from the United States Marine Corps. Forward by James Mattis.
Yeah. And Boris's book for bonus points. Just read it.
And I think we're going to have to put Boris's book on book club, so I've put it in the to-do pile.
Yeah.
We'll have to pick a month for that. So maybe our first book of 2022.
Yeah. Let's do it. Let's just call it now.
Okay. The January book club book is going to be Boris's book, which has a very long title. It's what's the name of your book, Boris?
Hero Spacecraft Guide to Disaster Preparedness.
Yeah.
There we go.
Looking forward to it.
I thought when I clicked on Amazon it was longer than that, but maybe I've had a bit to drink.
That's okay.
Yeah.
It's on our website, available in paperback and PDF format, and on Amazon, on all their marketplaces around the world. Again, paperback
Nice.
and ebook format.
If you buy it off of his website though, and you ask him very nicely, he will autograph it for you.
Yes, that is true. You will get a nice autograph.
And it was much more pleasant than the one that I got from Rob when I asked him to draw me a picture of a Hawaiian pizza.
Yes, because you didn't get a Hawaiian pizza drawn for you, did you?
No, I got a middle finger drawing.
Yes, that's exactly it. That's what a Hawaiian pizza should be, according to him.
Yeah, I do appreciate him though.
Yes, what a lovely human being he is.
Oh boy. Well, let's remind everybody one more time. I know you guys have mentioned it a couple times, but if you can tell us where listeners can find you, both your websites and your social media presence.
Best place to get a hold of both of us is Instagram. At True North Tradecraft is where you find Boris, and at Delta 2 Alpha Design is where you find me. And I know we usually respond to our messages within the hour.
Yeah. Pick up some, pick up your book for January's book club. Pick up some escape tools so that you can practice safely at home with a partner, not both tied up at the same time, just one and then the other. And then pick up some like quick dry underwear or some wicked concealment jeans and all kinds of stuff that Ace has on his website. Some awesome fitness stuff too, if you're into fitness.
We'll actually do so as far as capability and preparedness and all that and being prepared, whether you're a shit hits the fan guy or a zombie apocalypse guy, or it's whatever type of thing you're looking for, your life is easier when you're in shape. If you contact me on Instagram and DM me a picture, DM me a screenshot of your order with a set of resistance bands and an egg rope in it, I'll send you a code for a free copy of the El Russo training program, which is about 42 weeks of training. So as far as kind of tying into your guys' challenge of like do something every day to be better, if like during lockdown or restrictions, we had guys lose more than 40 pounds, like leaned out. El Russo setup, it's 100%, it's designed to be completely scalable. If you're my old man with COPD and a bum foot, or you're a professional MMA fighter, you're able to run it because it's 100% scalable. And it also has some really good prehab stuff in it. So if you have nagging injuries, you'll notice that they go away. There was one guy that complained about having, neck pain and shoulder pain for like 5-10 years. After about 3 weeks, his neck and shoulder pain was gone because a big portion of that is postural reset, which is a band program. It just strengthens all the right stuff where you're probably weak. So if you contact me for those details, we'll get you set up.
All right. Get fitness things from Ace and then get free training from Ace.
If you get escape tools from Boris and you decide to practice by yourself, just think about it this way. When the cops find you in some kind of tied up weird position, they're going to assume that it was some type of weird sex gone wrong, and that's going to be in your eulogy. Okay, that will be your legacy. Was not prepper James Bond extraordinaire. It will be died doing weird sex stuff.
Yeah, you're going to be on a list and not the fun kind.
Don't be a loser. Don't do that.
Don't
be safe.
Don't die doing weird sex stuff. Okay, have your partner there ready to out if you need.
If you're going to die doing weird sex stuff, at least die doing actual weird sex stuff, not assumed weird sex stuff.
Yeah, I mean, like sometimes you go
not the by yourself sex stuff. No, have someone there, not by yourself.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Better yet, come and take a class so you know what you're doing.
You don't die like David Carradine. Okay.
No, that's not good for anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent. Is there anything else, boys?
I think we'll just round out the show here. Pierre, where can everybody find you and your stylish clothing?
Also customizing on Facebook, Instagram. I'm sure my wife set some other stuff up. Also, if you're not on Discord, go on Discord and you can get your pre-orders, Ragnarok and CPP sweaters.
Right. Get your sweaters.
yes.
It's cold in Canada. Get your
Yeah.
sweaters.
Yes.
Yeah.
They're
Any
keep you
idiot
nice
can be
toasty
cold and
warm.
wet.
And Gavin and I have a course coming up. We're going to do a land nav map and compass in Mississauga area, December 4 and 5. It's on the website. Go to ragnarokTactical.ca. Use discount code PATRIOT at checkout. Save yourself some money. Literally take food out of my son's mouth so that you can save a few bucks to take a course or buy some first aid supplies.
So
We've got,
when's the course?
We're going to do it on December 4 and 5 in the Mississauga area. It's going to be $130. It's going to be map and compass work. It's our land nav course that we've run several times in the past. You need to come and be able to take notes. And if you have a compass, very handy, but not strictly required.
Yeah. We'll get you sorted.
Make sure you pre-order your sweaters so you'll stay nice
Yeah.
and toasty warm for December.
Exactly.
That's right. We are going to
Exactly.
make them walk around outside. That is part of the...
Yes.
Yeah. Go find me some points. Somebody bring me a grid square.
Yeah.
I have to apologize to Rod Giltaka. Rod did not want to tell us his safe word this week. I think he thought we were going to use the handcuffs on the show. There was some sort of a disconnect with communication. I'm very sorry to Rod. I was not trying to find out his safe word. I just asked if he had one.
Yeah.
My bad. For all of our listeners out there in podcast land, I'd like to remind you that you are the true